Dr. Penelope Marsh always measured her life in increments of starlight. From the deck of Desert Bloom Observatory, 25 miles outside the sleepy town of Bluff, Utah, she charted Cepheid variables, recorded meteor showers, and fussed over her aging but beloved 14-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope. The saltbush-dotted desert rolled away from the facility like russet velvet, and at night the horizon melted into a dark sapphire dome. It was the sort of place where mysteries should have been impossible. A coyote's yip or the hush of wind over sandstone arches rarely hid anything more menacing than a jackrabbit. Still, as Penny liked to remind her cat Galileo, human nature can find mischief even under perfectly good stars. On a crisp October evening, Penny brewed sage tea, set the mug atop her observation desk, and began calibrating the camera attached to the telescope. Her current project, mapping slight luminosity changes in Delta Cephei, required a raft of long-exposure photographs. She opened the remote shutter, checked the guiding software, and hummed an old folk tune that echoed off the observatory's curved walls. 40 minutes later, she called up the first image. Thousands of pinpricks glowed against black, the universe frozen, and at first glance nothing appeared amiss. Then, just below the center, she noticed a faint doubling of a star cluster. The second cluster was an exact mirror image of the first, rotated along an invisible axis. She zoomed in. The reflected pattern lacked the atmospheric distortion present in the real stars, as though someone had pasted a pristine copy onto the sky. Galileo, curled beside the monitor, yawned. Penny scratched his ears, while her mind ticked through possibilities. Internal lens reflection, sensor artifact, software glitch. Before she could decide, the guiding software pinged, another exposure finished. She opened the new frame. Again, the same mirrored cluster sat beneath the real one, unwavering. A cold finger of unease traced her spine. Penny saved the data, closed the dome shutters, and stepped onto the deck. Above, Orion climbed from the eastern horizon with the casual majesty of an old friend. No mysterious lights, no hovering drones, only honest starlight. Yet her camera had captured something that didn't belong. She returned inside, poured fresh tea, and compared the coordinates of each doubled star to its twin. A numeric pattern emerged. Each mirrored star appeared exactly 1.3 degrees south of its counterpart. The offsets formed perfect right triangles, the kind surveyors loved. Coordinates, she murmured. If someone could read the night sky, they could translate those offsets into real-world positions. But who would encode ground locations in star maps, and why? Penny drafted an email to her friend Ranger Miriam Yazzie at Bears Ears National Monument. Miriam was Navajo, an indefatigable hiker, and the area's fiercest protector of ancestral sites. If the mystery involved coordinates, she needed to know. Penny attached 2 images with annotated stars and pressed send. Galileo meowed, so Penny filled his bowl and tried to sleep. But sleep refused to visit a mind bright with constellations and riddles. Morning brought the odor of cedar smoke and microwave oatmeal. Penny's phone buzzed. Miriam, already on speaker, skipped hello. Those offsets match a spot on Combe Ridge, specifically a sandstone alcove with basket-maker-era granaries. "You're sure?" Penny asked. "Positive. I patrol there twice a month. If someone's playing scavenger hunt with your telescope, the prize is pottery and cliff art. Artifact theft plagued the desert. Potsherds fetched tidy sums on black markets, and looters increasingly used high-tech methods." Miriam's voice, firm as weathered rock, darkened. I'll swing by the observatory at noon. Penny spent the next hours cataloguing every image shot the previous night. The mirrored stars disappeared after 10 frames. Someone, or something, had toggled the effect off. When Miriam arrived, she brought fry bread, prickly pear jam, and a map. Her long braid was dusted with road grit, and her ranger truck idled, ready for a quick exit, as if she'd anticipated trouble. Penny relayed what she'd seen. Miriam traced a calloused finger along the map's thin contour lines. That alcove's remote. Hikers rarely find it accidentally. She paused. Could the thieves be using your public live stream? Penny's telescope fed real-time images to the observatory website, a feature she prided herself on. Anyone with internet could admire the cosmos, or, apparently, hide cryptic breadcrumbs inside it. But how could they insert fake stars into my feed without touching the telescope? She wondered. What about a projection? Miriam asked. A laser, maybe? Penny shook her head. A laser dot would be bright, monochrome. My images show proper stellar spectra. It's like someone overlaid a second star field with perfect astrophysical detail. Then maybe they're reflecting actual stars. Penny blinked. The concept was outrageous, yet elegant. If they rigged a mirror somewhere between the telescope and the sky, angled just right, they could bounce part of the real star field into my scope. The mirror's rotation would flip the pattern. That would also explain why the effect lasted only 10 frames, Miriam said. They tilted the mirror, signaled something, then stopped before you noticed. Which means, Penny concluded, they were close enough to see my dome. Galileo pawed at the door, oblivious to espionage. Miriam rolled up the map. We'll need backup. Deputy Joel owes me a favor. Deputy Joel Sandoval had the steadfast demeanor of a cattle dog, and all the skepticism required of law enforcement in a county larger than some states. Still, when he arrived that afternoon, Penny's photographic evidence tempered his doubts. He examined the star charts, scratched his buzz-cut scalp, and sighed. So, you're telling me thieves use the sky like an etch-a-sketch to direct accomplices, to loot ancestral sites? In short, Penny said, yes. Joel grimaced. Strangest dispatch I've heard all year, and I once arrested a man for drunkenly riding a goat down Main Street. The plan they forged was simple. Joel and 2 deputies would hike to the Combe Ridge alcove tonight, lie in wait, and arrest anyone disturbing the site. Meanwhile, Penny would man the observatory to see if the mirrored stars returned. If the thieves used her feed to confirm a successful raid, she could warn Joel over radio. By twilight, the players were in motion. Penny, alone again, prepped coffee and adjusted her telescope to the coordinates where the fake star cluster had appeared. The desert hushed under cooling air. Creosote hinted at rain that never came. She petted Galileo, donned headphones, and watched. Hours crawled. Real constellations tracked westward. Midnight passed, then 1 a.m. Penny stretched. Perhaps the thieves had sensed a trap. She poured stale coffee, returned to the monitor, and froze. The mirrored stars were back. This time, 4 clusters duplicated, forming a zigzag pattern. Penny's pulse thudded. She paged Joel on the radio. No answer. Combe Ridge sat in a radio shadow. Think, Penny. She printed the current frame, overlaid a ruler, measured offsets. The new pattern pointed to a different location, 20 degrees west of the granary alcove. A diversion. She called Miriam's satellite phone. Thankfully, it rang through. The thieves shifted coordinates, Penny blurted. They're leading you somewhere else. Hard to move now, Miriam whispered. Wind cackled over her microphone. Joel's downslope tracking footprints. Can you decode new coordinates precisely? Penny calculated. The offset translated to 37,315, 109,50 degree. An abandoned homestead near Butler Wash, a 2-mile trek south of their stakeout. They're splitting forces, Miriam said. Leave Joel the alcove. I'll take Deputy Alvarez and cut toward Butler Wash. Communication ended. Penny returned to her scope. The mirrored stars faded, as though content their message had been sent. She paced, restless. Every bone in her body urged her to chase the mystery personally, but a scientist's place was with her instrument. She opened the dome for a visual scan. That's when she spotted the truck. Half a mile down the dirt road, headlights dimmed, sat a dark pickup. No ranchers drove these trails at 2:30 a.m. Someone was watching the observatory, or waiting for proof their stellar missive had been received. Penny retreated inside, heart thrumming. She flicked off every interior light except the monitor glow. Galileo hissed, the fur on his tail spiked. Tires crunched outside. Think cozy thoughts, she told herself. Sweaters, quilts, cinnamon rolls. They didn't help. She reached for the emergency radio to hail Joel when the door rattled. Dr. Marsh? A male voice, muffled but polite. We're lost hikers. Car trouble. Then why knock on a private observatory at 3 a.m., Penny muttered. She grabbed the flare gun kept near the first aid kit. Red phosphorus hardly equaled a sidearm, but it could singe eyebrows. The door creaked open. A lanky man in cargo pants stepped in, flashlight lowered. Behind him, a stouter companion scanned the room. They froze when flare flame blossomed inches from their chests. Car trouble? Penny asked sweetly. The lanky one, mid-30s, sun-bleached hair, raised both hands. Easy, Professor. We just need the ranger station phone. And the mirrored star pattern you projected into my lens, did it break down too? Her gaze flicked to the stouter man. His backpack bulged unnaturally square, the shape of a collapsible surveyor's mirror. The lanky thief's affable mask slipped. Look, lady, put that pop gun away and nobody gets hurt. He stepped forward. Penny discharged the flare against the concrete floor. It shrieked and sizzled, glaring red. The men jumped back, momentarily blinded. Galileo bolted under a desk. Penny dashed to the radio. Officer in need, observatory, 2 suspects. The stout man lunged, slapped the radio from her hand. It clattered, still squawking. He seized her arm, pain shot through her shoulder. Outside, a siren wailed. Deputy Joel's cruiser, returning along the dusty road. Relief flooded Penny so fast she laughed despite the predicament. The stout man cursed. The lanky thief kicked open the door and fled into the night. The stout one hesitated, grip loosening. Penny twisted free, grabbed a heavy meteorite sample from her display shelf and swung. The iron chunk connected with his backpack. The mirror inside shattered with a crunchy twang. He toppled, wind knocked out. Joel burst in, service pistol drawn. Hands where I can see them, the stout thief groaned, complied. Joel cuffed him, radioed for another unit, then eyed the smouldering flare on the floor. Dr. Marsh, remind me never to interrupt your experiments. Penny managed a shaky grin. Science can be explosive. Minutes later, Deputy Alvarez's voice crackled over the radio. She and Miriam had intercepted 2 more suspects at Butler Wash, one carrying freshly unearthed clay figurines wrapped in bubble pack. Joel escorted the captured thief to his cruiser. Dawn's first quilt of colour spread over the horizon. Exhaustion settled into Penny's bones, but satisfaction warmed her like sunrise. 2 days later, Bluff buzzed with gossip. Locals stopped Penny at the market, at the post office, even at Sunday potluck to congratulate her. Mayor Ruth Sims delivered cinnamon rolls. Penny saved one for Galileo, who only wanted the frosting. The thieves, identified as Raymond Pike, Carl Dupree, and siblings Lacey and Miles Gantz, were part of an interstate ring stealing and selling native artifacts. Investigators found star charts in their motel room, annotated with Penny's website URL, and a schedule of her telescope's live stream sessions. Raymond, the lanky leader, remained at large, but with his tools confiscated and accomplices jailed, his reach had shortened. That evening, Penny, Miriam, and Joel gathered on the observatory deck to sip hot cocoa and watch Venus glitter like a pearl. Miriam propped her boots on the railing. The FBI agent asked how we cracked their code. I told him we had help from above. Divine intervention? Joel teased. Better, she countered. Astronomy. Penny blushed. All I did was notice symmetry. Joel nudged her shoulder. That's all any detective does. Notice what shouldn't be symmetrical. A breeze carried the aroma of pinyon. In the distance, cliffs blushed pink, guarding ages-old secrets. Penny raised her mug. To honest stars and honest earth beneath them. They clinked mugs. Galileo circles around their feet, tail high, a silent toast of his own. A week later, Penny replaced the observatory's live stream with a 5-minute delay and watermark. She also installed motion sensors around the perimeter. But she refused to shutter her window to the universe. The sky, after all, was not to blame for what a few humans did beneath it. On a moonless night, she opened the dome again. Her telescope whirred, aligning with Delta Cephei. Real stars, ancient and indifferent, blinked back. No mirrors, no mischief, only light travelling across eons to greet her retina. Penny smiled, recording their brightness, trusting their stories. And somewhere, beyond both human greed and human wonder, the desert kept its counsel beneath the constellations, patient, enduring, waiting for the next curious soul to listen.